What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Schuh Show. Grant, Cohn, Rob Schuh. 2 minutes late as usual. I know you guys wonder, like, what are they doing? How are they late? Well, we get there early, and then we just, shooting the breeze and laughing, and it really taking pleasure in making you guys wait. So I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's the thrill of anticipation, Grant. You keep them on the edge of their seats wanting more.
And wasting other people's time. I love that. See, One thing you don't understand about being a sports writer is it's living the dream, but it involves athletes wasting your time the entire time. Do you want an interview? Yes, it's just going to be about 15 minutes, but it's actually 45 minutes. It's like a waiting room forever. And I'm glad to pass that right along to my viewers, because when I die one day, if I talk to the man at the pearly gates, I'll be like, could I get 6 months back that I was just waiting around? I was just waiting. But the answer will be no. Sorry.
I respect you for paying it forward like that, Grant.
Oh, yeah. Now you get to wait 2 minutes for us. All right. We are all waiting for Deebo Samuel to do something else on social media, because nothing's going on right now, and we are hanging over every post, which I think exactly what him as agent want. We're going to talk about that later. But let's talk about Jed's motivation when it comes to this Deebo Samuel extension. Take it away, Rob.
We've looked at this thing from every angle, right, Grant? I mean, we're looking at it from a team angle. We're looking at it from a fan angle. We're looking at it from a Deebo angle. But what about a business angle? What about the man who writes the checks for the San Francisco 49ers? Because that's a fairly relevant angle when you're talking about $60, $70 million of guaranteed money. It's pretty important that you have the sign off of the guy who writes those checks. And so it seemed like a logical place to examine this from a fresh perspective. I wanted to look back in order to look forward, right? I think you look back at the Jimmy G deal. Jed York coming off of that 2017 season, 5 wins in a row for Jimmy Garoppolo, small sample size, but man, did that light the fan base on fire, right? Was there now an energy around the 49ers team that, let's face it, was not there? If we take ourselves back to 2017, those were dark days, Grant. Those were dark days. And I think when you look at it from a purely business perspective, Jed would happily do that all over again. We look at that Jimmy G contract as an albatross around the San Francisco 49ers neck. If you clear out the emotion, if you clear out the football argument and purely look at it from the bottom line for the San Francisco 49ers, because Jed York is all about printing that money. And I can't fault him for that. He's all about making that cheddar. For him, paying Jimmy Garoppolo that $130 million absolutely paid dividends, because he was able to put butts in seats. But when we look at Deebo Samuel, I think we have to acknowledge that the 49ers are no longer in that same position. Jed York is probably no longer looking at the franchise in need of saving in that respect. He doesn't need Jimmy Garoppolo and his jawline to come in and plaster him all over the stadium, right? The stadium is now full again because the 49ers are a contender. And so it becomes a question, is Jed still looking at this from a purely business perspective to where he's talking about the bottom line, or would he take into account the team aspect of this, the emotional aspect of this? To me, if I'm looking at this, if I'm Jed York, I've got to say to myself, there's a limit. Like, yes, I want to pay Deebo. Yes, he is a favorite within the fan base. Yes, trading him would cause an immense uproar, but there has to be a ceiling as to what I'm willing to pay him, because he doesn't have the same level of productivity as some of those elite receivers over a period of time.
Sure. I'm trying to see this from Jed's perspective, and it's always a bleak perspective, and I can't think like Jed, because how does a Jed York think? I don't know. But it seems to me that the Niners don't really market Deebo as much as they could. I mean, he's one of the people that's very important, but who do they market?
George Kittle.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep.
Trent Williams.
Yep.
Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah.
Kyle Juszczyk's face is everywhere.
Fullback.
They don't give him the ball, but they market the hell out of those guys. George Kittle specifically. Deebo? I mean, from Jed's perspective, he could be like, you know what? Kittle's the face of this team. If we lose Deebo, fans will fall in line. We'll sell it. Kyle Shanahan will just get the next Deebo, and we'll still continue to put George Kittle's face all over the season ticket renewal packages. That's possible. Also, it's possible that from Jed's perspective, who's his number one guy? Parag. If Parag comes up to him and is like, dude, it's a terrible idea to spend $30 million a year on a wide receiver. It's just bad business. You don't do it. Kind of like how I think they were saying you don't spend $20 million a year on a defensive tackle. I don't care how good DeForest Buckner thinks he is. $20 million a year on a defensive tackle, $30 million a year for what? You don't do business like that around here. We just don't. And if you got your number one guy saying, I wouldn't pay him, and you don't feel like you would take a financial hit, you feel like your head coach is on board and he thinks he can replace him, you just might do it. And to me, that's a whole lot of arrogance and egos making the wrong decision right there. But I'm trying to think like Jed.
Right. And if you're thinking like Jed, you have to think, who are my most trusted advisors? And right or wrong, Jed does seem to view it from a business perspective. And it would seem from outward appearances that Parag is one of the most influential voices within that front office, right? He seems to really listen to him as a trusted voice within the organization. And I would imagine, again, there is some speculation, as all of this is, I would imagine that Parag is that voice of reason of like, hey, we're talking about a guy who has not had back-to-back consistent seasons. We're talking about a lot of guaranteed money. We're coming off of some deals that don't look so great when you have too much guaranteed money for a player that is often injured. So do we really want to invest on that level? But I think you have to examine it from, would it be bad for business from either perspective? If, again, I'm putting myself in Jed York's shoes. So would a trade be bad for business? I would argue that you could sell an incredible trade package. You could get the fan base pretty excited if you got a lucrative package in return for Deebo. But I say that in a vacuum. I think you have to take into account where the 49ers franchise is right now with regard to the fan base. And I don't think you can rule out just how much of an issue it is that Jimmy Garoppolo is still on this roster. I think fans are teetering on the edge of insanity. If you go on to 49er Twitter, it is a weird place, right? Fans are frustrated. Fans are irritated with the way this offseason has played out. And sometimes irrationally so, because of this Jimmy Garoppolo albatross that does hang around the 49ers' neck in that regard. So can they withstand another big blow like, oh, well, we're just going to trade Deebo, even if they're able to sell a huge trade package?
One last thing I want to point out from Jed's perspective, which is Parag's perspective. Remember, Trent Williams last year said that Parag told him, no, we're not going to pay more than a certain amount. Kyle Shanahan eventually called Parag and said, get it done. And Parag said, okay, fine, I'll work for you. Let's do it. But Parag said, this is too much money. You know how much money Trent Williams is getting per year? Do you know?
A lot.
No, do you know specifically? It's $23 million a year. It's not that much.
Yeah.
So if Parag would balk at $23 million a year for the best left tackle in football who's proven it over a decade, all of a sudden, he's going to be cool spending $30 million a year for Deebo Samuel at 26 years old. To me, that's not Parag. Kyle again is going to have to come in and say what to do, because I have a feeling I think I know what Parag's going to do. But maybe I'm wrong.
Is that something? Kyle Shanahan has a soft spot in his heart for Deebo, much like he does for Trent Williams. The relationship doesn't go as far back as it does with Trent, quite obviously. But when you hear the stories about Deebo just stopping in, chatting with Kyle in his office, right? Other players aren't doing that. Other players aren't coming in for a friendly coach conversation where they feel like they can walk in the office and be like, yo, Kyle, what's up? Deebo has that type of relationship. Do you see this as another scenario where eventually, I mean, we still got a long road to hoe on this one, but eventually we get to a point where Kyle has to step in and say whether he does or does not want to overpay for Deebo?
I do, but it's complicated because Nick Bosa is also up for a contract as well. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Thomas Norton says, breaking news, Deebo wants more than Hill, $30 million a year. Yeah, we're going to talk about that next. J-Rod says, breaking news, Deebo Samuel doesn't want Jimmy on the team. I don't even want my Jimmy jersey in my closet. You have a Jimmy jersey in your closet? That's what I just learned.
Strike one.
That's strike one. All right, let's talk. First of all, are the 49ers not flexible enough? And the context is The market for quarterbacks changed very quickly this offseason. The Niners didn't react. And as a result, they're just hanging on to Jimmy because things didn't play out the way they thought. And they're waiting for another window. Then with the wide receiver market, instead of getting it done as early as possible with Samuel, and it seems like he wants his money now, the Niners are waiting. And the price keeps going up weekly. And now it's going up so far. People are wondering if it's too much for the 49ers taste, which is crazy. I mean, it's just shocking to think that we're getting here. Are the Niners not flexible? Do they not pivot quickly enough? Do they not react on their feet?
That would be my contention. I truly believe that those two examples within this one offseason illustrate that the 49ers are being inflexible in these instances and would be better served with greater flexibility. I would argue. So some people say that it's not fair to criticize the Jimmy G trade fiasco because we don't actually know how it played out behind the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. Specifically, I've heard you don't know that the 49ers overplayed their hand. And to that, I call complete BS. Complete BS, right? The number one goal for the 49ers this offseason was to trade Jimmy Garoppolo.
They said so.
That is goal number one. Refresh my memory, Grant. Is Jimmy Garoppolo still on the 49ers roster?
Yes. And again, what they're saying is like, look, give us time. There's still time to trade him.
Right.
They've admitted we want to trade him. That's our goal. And we're not giving up on that. Okay. So you haven't failed yet, but you're running out of time. And most people think you're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. They failed because Jimmy is still on the roster right now, and most of those freaking seats are filled at this point. To me, they fell short of what they were attempting to accomplish.
Whatever. Sorry to cut you off, but whatever team they're waiting on to want Jimmy Garoppolo, they're going to want Baker Mayfield instead. There's always going to be another quarterback that's more desirable than Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Niners haven't quite figured that out yet. He's never going to be the next guy up.
To me, it's pretty obvious that the 49ers, if they had pivoted sooner and reacted to this rapidly changing, the increasing speed of the musical chair game that happened, they could have moved Garoppolo. Sure, it may have required that they slash their prices, but guess what? That's what you do in a fire sale.
Right. Like for example, I think what we both agree on here is they're not flexible. Parag, Jed, John, they set out a shopping list for the offseason. What we're going to do. We're going to trade Jimmy for a second round pick. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. And they just don't budge. So when they can't get the second for Jimmy, they're not like, should we take the third and move on? No, absolutely not. Our plan, and we're sticking to the plan, is to get a second for Jimmy. So they're going to hold on until the end of time. And that's how they are. And so now you get nothing for Jimmy. Right. Now you get a very expensive backup quarterback. And with Deebo Samuel, like as soon as Devontae Adams got traded and got that big extension with the Raiders, you knew where this was going. You should have been able to see that, there's a lot of wide receivers who are due for extensions. Maybe it's time to just give Deebo what he wants right now. Now you're waiting around and the price tag could go up again next week. So maybe the 49ers should do some impulse buying every once in a while. Stray away from the shopping list.
So I appreciate that the 49ers put a price tag that they believed was appropriate on Jimmy Garoppolo and said, this is the value. I appreciate that. But guess what? When market changes occur, you have to adjust. That's just the way of business, right? It takes two parties to actually establish a true value within the market, within a free market. And after the surgery, Jimmy's value for all those buyers went down considerably. The 49ers, as the seller, were like, oh, we're firm on our price. Like, if that's your goal, if you're selling something on Craigslist and you are firm on your price, get prepared that maybe that thing sits in your garage for a little while, right? And that's what's happening.
Yeah, and let's talk about from Deebo's perspective. I'm sure coming into the offseason, the Niners thought, we're going to give Deebo a nice extension. We're going to give him
it's going to look great.
More money than we've ever given a wide receiver. We're going to give him, we gave Trent 23. We'll give him 22. We'll give him $22 million a year. It's going to be, Deebo's going to love it.
He's going to be thrilled.
He's going to be freaking thrilled. And now it's like, that's an insult. And are the 49ers
are you lowballing me?
Are you kidding me? It's an insult to offer 22. So are the 49ers the kind of team that is like, you know what? Markets change, cost of doing business, throw out our initial plan. Let's react to what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
Is that what they do? It's what they should do. But is that what they do historically? No.
What they do is they say, well, we've budgeted for these deals to get done. We have budgeted for Bosa and Deebo, indicating that they're going to get the deal done, indicating that they're ready to pony up the money necessary to lock down Deebo. But then when things begin to move in the market, it seems as if they're just inflexible. They say to themselves, no, we had a proper valuation on Deebo that takes everything into account. It takes into account his injury history. It takes into account the spectacular season that he just had. Yes. But they're completely failing to take into account, not complete, that's a little hyperbole. They are failing on some level.
Go for it.
Some level to take into account what the market has done, right? The market has skyrocketed. Inflation has hit the wide receiver market, and it's time to pony up.
And you can't tell me that your team is better off without Deebo Samuel. Just, I mean, maybe in a financial sense, right, but not on the field.
No,
so I think you totally broke it down perfectly right. I agree with everything you said.
Well, thank you.
Parag, listen up, dude. What do you get with the times? You're not flexible enough. Wide receivers are expensive. You got to pay for them. It's like housing prices in the Oakland Hills right now. I'm starting to learn. It's disgusting.
Yeah. You got to pony up if you want to get into that house game.
I'm not going to try to buy a house out here. What am I going to do? It's the price of doing business. I'm disgusted, though.
Yeah. And that's where Deebo is right now. He's disgusted with the offers that are coming his way.
And the Niners are probably disgusted with having to pay that much for a wide receiver. Sorry, you want a good wide receiver? That's the cost.
And who do they have to blame for this, Grant? Anyone but themselves, right? What is this like? What is this reason for waiting to get the deal done? I understand in years past that it may have been advantageous. As soon as this market began to skyrocket, as soon as inflation hit record numbers, it was time to jump into the pool with both feet.
The Niners think their negotiating position strengthens as a player gets nervous. Am I gonna have to hold out? It becomes very uncomfortable for the player as it gets to July and August. That's how they do it. They feel like they have they win. They win the negotiation if they hold out as long as possible, take it to the deadline. That's how they do it. But you're losing. You're losing the negotiation because his price goes up.
Right.
As every other extension comes in. So,
and I must acknowledge that Parag, and his inflexibility, the 49ers could still basically win both of these scenarios. They could still trade Jimmy Garoppolo. They probably will still get a deal done with Deebo.
I could still find a house in Montclair for $750,000. That's 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, fully furnished with a view. I think it's possible that I could do
possible. But there's going to be some compromise. And I would argue that the compromise that's having to be made is a result of that inflexibility by the 49ers, that they have cost themselves. Like if you have passed up on any of those dream homes thinking, oh, the next one's going to be better, but the prices keep going up, you're like, oh, I should have bought that one 6 months ago.
Yes, exactly. Oh, why don't I just wait till next year?
Yeah.
Because then I'll have more money. Yeah, but the price goes up next year.
Yeah, it'll be double.
Rates go up next year. Man, I don't understand math or finances at all, but that sounds terrible.
Damn
all right, let's answer some questions. James says you have a rookie quarterback contract. That is the reason you overpay some players, just not the backup quarterback. Well, I mean, I think that's kind of bringing me to my next point. So I'm going to put the next questions on hold because I really want to make that point, and you beat me to it. Okay, so I didn't prep you for this one, but Deebo said he wants – no. It's been reported. Clarence – I forget the guy's name. But anyway, he's a very important –
I trust anyone named Clarence.
He's good. No, he's legit. He's legit. Sorry, I should have his name. Says that Deebo wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. I mean, I want to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL too. It's not a bad thing to want it. It doesn't mean that you'll hold out for it or that you'll insist on it, but that's a good place to start your negotiations. Anyway, if that's what he insists on, though, if that's what he needs, that gets kind of tricky because that would mean that the Niners would have to spend more for his contract than Nick Bosa's. And I have a feeling the Niners were planning to spend more on Bosa than Deebo.
I would think so. The market would indicate that you would pay an edge rusher more than a wide receiver, although with all these wide receiver contracts coming out, it's getting closer and closer. I view Deebo as the type of individual, when I look at the way in which he posts on social media, the types of things that he puts out there, he's very much the type of guy that wants to speak things into existence. And so I could see this as putting it out there. I want to be the highest paid non-quarterback within the NFL, as sort of speaking that into existence in getting paid there. I just don't think that that's a reasonable reality. I don't think even if the 49ers were to trade Deebo to another team, that another NFL organization is going to be prepared to make Deebo the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. That may just be wishful thinking.
Yeah, because you could argue that he's the most valuable non-quarterback in the league. I think he is the most valuable non-quarterback, especially on offense.
Sure.
Because no offense relies on their non-quarterback as much as the Niners do with him.
Right.
The Niners offense legitimately sucks without Deebo. And that's with Kyle Shanahan, George Kittle, Trent Williams, all these, Brandon Ayuk. It sucks. Or it has. Whereas you take Nick Bosa off the defense, they had a top 5 defense for an entire season.
Right.
So Deebo's really important. He could really make the argument that he's worth $30 million. And I do think there are teams that'd be willing to give it to him. So it's just interesting. Like, what does he need? We all have egos. What does he need? Does he need to say that he's the highest paid now? Because, like, the contracts aren't necessarily real. They come out and they say, I'm the highest paid player in the league. And then 2 weeks later, like, actually, the guaranteed money isn't that high. Does he need to be able to say he's the highest paid non-quarterback in the league? Does he need more guaranteed money? What would it take for him to be happy? If he needs more money than Nick Bosa, this is going to get really awkward.
And that could be a win for the 49ers if they take that angle of like, hey, Deebo, you got the injury history, man. We're just not going to be able to get there with the guaranteed money. But we can make you look like the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. We can have those incentives that you're not likely to hit that probably aren't going to count against our cap at any point. But if you hit them, you're going to go through the roof.
That's what the Niners did to Colin Kaepernick, if you remember.
Yes.
Remember? Initially, it came out, they made him the highest paid player in the league. And then a week later, they're like, actually, it's the least player-friendly contract ever. We can get rid of him in 2 years. It was like, remember that?
Yes, I
do.
They've
done this before. They sort of like, we'll give him the headline. We'll give him the headline, make him feel good about himself. But then 2 weeks later, we'll tell all the local guys, like, here's how we got over and how this is a team-friendly deal. They could try that. But anyway, I just think it's interesting that Deebo wants that much, that he's posturing like that. And I think, good for you, dude, because you can make the argument. If I were your agent, I'd be right there with you, man. I would be saying this dude is more important to the 49ers than Nick Bosa.
It's all about leverage right now.
Yes, you got to say that because look, they lost Nick Bosa for a year in 2020. The defense was great. When Deebo Samuel isn't on the field, their offense is awful.
Right.
Like they had Deebo with Nick Mullins against the Rams and beat him.
Yeah.
Freaking beat him.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, he's that important. Yeah.
And the Niners are taking the opposite approach. Deebo, great. Yeah. In 2021, with Jimmy Garoppolo as our starter, you were the most important piece for this offense. Now we're making the transition to Trey. Guess who's working out with Trey this offseason, who we think is going to have a bigger season? Brandon Ayuk. You're over there in Miami, man. You're not down in Southern California
You're running
working
back
out.
to our team now, bro.
Right?
I don't know, bro.
So you could see them making the counter argument because, again, both sides are posturing right now. It's all about leverage. It's all about saying who has more of it in order to bring down the other side's negotiation.
Okay, so if Deebo's posturing at like $32 million a year, I want to be the highest paid non-quarterback. Where are the Niners posturing at right now? And is that why things are getting weird on social media? Because if that's where they're at, and the other end of the spectrum would be like top-end running back money, right? Like we'll offer you $18 million a year. Oh, that would be that they could be $14 million a year. It doesn't mean that they won't get this done, but they could be like comically off right now.
If they are that far off, John better be on the phone like, hey, anybody interested in a trade here? Because that feels like too much distance to cover.
I would love to know what the Niners and Parag thought they would be able to get Deebo Samuel to agree to like 2 months ago. I'd love to know what they thought.
I would like to know if they actually could have gotten it done if they had just tried 2 months ago, because I think they probably weren't as far off back then.
I'm guessing they could have. I'm guessing they could have a 3rd round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo right now, the one that Indianapolis traded for Matt Ryan, because they didn't know Matt Ryan was going to be available.
No, if you had just said, cool, we'll cut our price.
We'll take a 3rd. I bet
we'll
they'd
pay
have
a portion
that.
of his salary.
Yep, I bet they'd have that, and I bet they'd have this done with Deebo Samuel right now. Let's take
flexibility hurt them.
It did. Nathan says if the Niners trade Deebo and keep Jimmy, I'm be pissed. POD?
Pissed off daily?
Daily?
I don't know.
Probably.
I have no idea. The acronyms, the shortening. No, I'm out. I'm too old for that.
His mom bought him the Jimmy Garoppolo jersey. Should have been Lance. Don't put it on your mom. She thought she knew. She thought she probably heard you talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. She said, "Oh, he's gonna love this. He's gonna love
this." He's always talking about Jimmy.
Exactly. Don't put it on, Mom. Sven says, Grant, are we really not just calling this posturing for a better contract by Deebo? We've seen this happen with players a million times before. Sure, we're going to talk about that too. We're also going to talk about the meta conversation of this whole thing because it's so interesting. Need that merch, Grant. Play the kid. I'm working on. I swear, I just had a conversation with my guy Everett, who you guys.
My guy.
Everett's
Brian a good dude.
The guy who made this. Brian says, to me, Deebo isn't worth $30 million yet. Bet you Niners want to see one more season of that type of production, which is fair. Devontae Adams and Tyreek. Yeah, but they can't really make that argument when they just gave Jimmy Garoppolo the bag after 5 games. I'm just saying they can be right, but it's hard to say that, and then have like the agent of Deebo like look Parag in the eye and be like, well, where was this energy for Jimmy Garoppolo? Oh, you overcorrecting because you messed up with Jimmy Garoppolo. Is that what's going on?
The handsome white quarterback, you were willing to do that, but now
okay,
Yeah, last year, it gets contentious.
It does. Last year, biggest wide receiver contract given was $472 million.
Laughable.
Right. Pissed off. Pay Deebo. All right, hold on. I got more. The question is, the question of the show is, should the 49ers let Deebo Samuel play out his rookie contract? As in, dude, you're under contract this year. I don't know what you want. I don't care what you want. You need to prove it again. And if you do, we'll pay you whatever you want. And if you're upset and you want to leave, we'll freaking franchise tag you. You have no leverage here. You're going to play for us whether you're happy or not. Basically say, we don't care if you like us. You want to play in spite of us, whatever. You want to get paid. You need to play football at a really high level. So do it for us and do it in spite of us. Don't talk to people. Don't talk to Kyle every day, whatever. Who cares? Be a professional. They could do that. And, I've been advocating that for months that, I don't really know about. I mean, they use him as a running back. He's had an injury history. Is that how you feel?
I got to look at this one from both sides because it's a confusing issue for me. I see it both from Deebo's perspective and from the team perspective. So when I look at it, I got to go pros and cons on this one. So what are the pros of letting Deebo play out the last year of his deal? I mean, obviously, it is to see if he can put together back-to-back successful seasons.
You get more data. So you get to you get to be more confident in your decision whenever you
just want to know, can he stay healthy for another season? Can his body withstand another year of usage in the way he was used in 2021? Was that an anomaly, right? I mean, you had Chris Johnson with his 2K season. What did he do the next year? Typically after these monumental seasons that take a significant toll on athletes' bodies, there's usually a bounce back year.
Plus, Deebo just went 3 games in the playoffs where he was like getting 14 touches a game.
Yes. And was like each one of those games, there was a play where Deebo was down on the ground and it looked like there was no way he was getting up. True. And then like Rocky Balboa, he rises up, right? But
it was like Hulk Hogan. It was like, boom, boom. Yeah, he's back. Yes.
But I mean, those were real. It wasn't WWE. He was not posturing.
No.
Those were legit injuries, right? So you got to wonder what that toll is on him.
So close to the bag. Got to get the bag. So close to the bag. Got to get the bag. Yeah. Sorry.
Driven. But then play out the other side of that pro, right? So what if you do get more data and he balls out again? And now you
and you feel great about paying whatever he wants.
Yeah. No, that's true. Because now you feel more secure in it.
You just made the price go up and you played yourself like you just did. So here, I think I have a new solution. Someone alluded to it earlier. I think I'm now in team pay Deebo, but I think it's how you structure it.
Yeah.
You could front load it for Deebo. Usually the Niners backload deals, right?
They do.
Like with Kittle, Armstead, I think you could backload it with Bosa. Bosa's younger. Deebo, you're worried about longevity, right? He's 26 now. He plays running back now. Front load the deal. Give him a 4-year deal or whatever, but basically he gets a ton of guaranteed money the first 2 years. It's a lot of money. And then after that, you can get out. But the allure for him is you get a ton of money up front and you potentially get to hit free agency again in your 20s.
Right.
And then the reason the Niners can do this when they never do contracts like this is because of Trey Lance. Their quarterback is cheap, relatively speaking, for the next 2 years.
Yes.
So Deebo can be outrageously expensive and you can do something that you feel like Parag feels wrong and dirty. Who cares? It doesn't matter. And then in 3 years, when Trey Lance actually becomes, more expensive, or you go another quarterback, then you can work it out with Deebo Samuel. That you can cross that bridge when you get to him. But I think this is a good solution to make everyone happy. You don't want Deebo Samuel to be playing ups to be mad. You want him happy. He's your best player. You want to reward him. So I'm thinking a front-loaded deal that gives him guaranteed money the first 2 years.
I like that because to some degree you're mitigating risk in that strategy. You are exposing yourself to the idea that anytime you have a team out in a contract, it's also a hinge point for a player to be like, nope, this is the point where I start to hold out again and say that I want more money because he got the big money early in the contract. But to your point, like at that point, if he has played well for another couple of years, you feel good about giving him more money.
Absolutely. But I think like this is a nice way to handle it now. Like you don't have to go year to year. You don't have to go to the franchise tag. You don't have to create an enemy. You can be like, look, let's get, what do you want? $30 million a year? Here's $60 million guaranteed the next 2 years. And we can afford that because Jimmy's leaving.
Right.
And not only are we going to get the cap space, but we're going to probably hopefully cut him and roll the money over. We can afford it. We can freaking afford it. We'll pay you that. And then maybe in a couple of years, we won't be able to afford it. And you'll be 29 at that point. We'll reconsider. But we'll see. I think I think everyone should be happy with this.
Historically, everyone's looking at the Bosa and the Deebo deals as well. The Niners could fit them under the cap right now without cutting Jimmy Garoppolo because historically the Niners have kept that first-year cap figure about the same. Sometimes they've even lowered it, like in the Fred Warner deal. I believe they lowered it by a couple of dollars, and they could do the same with Deebo. This is flipping the script on that, right? This is taking advantage of the fact that you do have $25 million that you need to get off of the books and reallocating that in a way that does benefit the team and gives them greater flexibility in the future. Plus, when I go to spin the
You're not betting long-term on Deebo. You're not betting long-term on Deebo. I'm not. I have no idea what he's going to look like when he's 30 years old. I want him at 26, 27, 28. I want that.
Yeah, those are the years you want to lock down.
26 and 27. I want 26 and 27. We'll talk about 28 when we get there.
Yeah, when we're at 28, let's see what he looks like because maybe you want him for another 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe he's Jerry Rice or maybe he's just the next running back who breaks down. I mean, you don't know. It depends on how they use him too.
Yeah. I have to go pay Deebo as well on this one. Because when I look at the cons, I look at the fact that if you play hardball with Deebo this season, I think there's a very, he seems as if he has an ego. I'm not criticizing him for it. I think ego can be a beneficiary when you're a top level athlete. It's what drives you to be as great as you are, right? Yes. I mean, Grant, some might say you have yourself an ego, right?
An ego. A healthy ego.
Healthy
ego. Because if you don't believe in yourself, no one believes in you, right?
Exactly. Yes. You got to be your own biggest fan.
Wright didn't have an ego, and it was Bill Walsh's job to enhance the ego, pump up the ego. He wanted him to have that ego. You're the best, Jerry. You're the best. You're the best.
The greatest.
You're the greatest.
To me, if you play hardball with Deebo, I think you're looking at a situation where he may never sign another contract. You may have to go the nuclear option. It's probably poor taste to say the nuclear option when we're as close to nuclear war as we've been since the Cuban Missile Crisis, but we all tune that out. So let's say it's the nuclear option because then you may have to franchise tag him and it just gets really contentious. And I don't think that you want to have that type of a situation with someone that you're counting on to be so productive within your offense. To me, when I look at it, the cons outweigh the pros. The pros outweigh the cons. The cons are too heavy. The consequences of playing hardball with Deebo are too heavy. And so to me, you got to try and get that deal done.
Yeah. He wants a lot of money. Okay. Let's do it in a way that works for us. And this is a short-term deal. That could work for you too, Deebo. You could get another big payday. Let's just go. Let me give you a ton of money the next 2 years. Let me give you a ton of money the next 2 years. Is that happy? Does that make you happy? This probably make him happy. You don't want to be with us 6 years. You don't want to lock yourself in long term. You want to be a bachelor in 3 years. You want to play the field. Come on.
This may be, Grant. This may be your greatest quality control idea yet.
Thank you. I mean, the Niners at some point have to take advantage of this rookie contract thing. They haven't done it yet. This is a way. This is a way.
This is it.
This is a way.
This is the way.
Yeah.
And if the 49ers take this approach, you will know assuredly that they're listening because this is so contrary to what they do.
Look, it's been 2 years doing quality control. I finally stumbled across a good idea. I would hope that they would use it or at least be listening. At least have taken the note down.
It's brilliant.
Thank you. J-Rod says he's going to talk more about Lance. Sorry, Mom.
Mama.
Your mom says it's okay. Leo says Devontae had Rodgers, Cup had Stafford, Hill had Mahomes, Diggs had Allen. Can't compare numbers. He'd have 2K all-purpose with a top-shelf quarterback. That's probably true. I mean, That's probably true. If the Niners want to wait a little bit longer, Deebo Samuel might be worth $50 million next year. We have no idea where this, because like the edge rusher market has been steadily going like this for a long time.
Right.
Wide receivers is like what is going on?
It's like crypto. Wide receivers are crypto.
It's pretty much crypto. That's a good point. That's a great analogy. Zach says a disgruntled rookie deal, Deebo still plus Jimmy still here, God forbid, equals locker room yikes. Not too certain he'd want to play without getting the bag. That's why you wrote that 5 minutes ago, but that's why I have floated this idea that I think should work. But again, the Niners have to get rid of Jimmy eventually.
If the Niners had successfully handled the Jimmy Garoppolo trade, they would have greater reserves with the fan base. The fan base would be more patient with this Deebo deal. The fact that they flubbed the Jimmy Garoppolo trade gives them less flexibility in this one. They have to hit a home run on one of the two here. To me, if they mess both up, revolt time.
The fact that they flubbed the Jimmy Garoppolo trade and the fact that they traded Buckner when they said he would be a 49er for a very long time just creates, I mean, anything could happen.
Yeah. That in combination with missing on Kinlaw. Yeah. Perfect storm. Yeah.
Sean Russell says, F Deebo. This could be their chance to get rid of Jimmy, make a team, take both of them, 2 birds, 1 stone, injury prone, diva crying on socials. This is the thing about football fans. Sean, I love you. They will always side with the team. They will always side with the team. And Deebo, you're playing. I know like everyone's like, hey, I think probably was the agent's idea. Take some stuff. Who knows? Take some stuff down. It's not even a big deal. You can deny it later. Fans will not like it, man. Like as long as you're with the team, you're saint. Okay, you're in. As soon as you take yourself, make it seem like you care more about money than the team, a lot of fans will hate you.
Yeah.
Hate you, even though like it's a business. The team treats it as a business. You're supposed to treat it as a business, but fandom is strange. They will have your back. They will have your back until you take yourself out of the inner circle.
Until you try to cross the billionaires. And then they're like, no, sir. Yeah, I don't side with millionaires. I side with billionaires.
It's not about the team. Guy's not about he's more about money than you just realized that everyone in this locker room is more about money than the team.
Yeah, like, the entire NFL.
Guys. This is not 1974. They're not in it for the love of the game. They're in it for the millions and millions of dollars. Most of them. Eric Crocker didn't make millions. And the
love of the game.
For the love of the game. And that's why I always am drawn to the undrafted free agents in the locker room. They are so relatable in one sense, but also not. They're normal people that grinded their way to the freaking NFL. Like, just think about what Eric Crocker did for a minute. Just think about that shit.
It's wild.
It's freaking wild. He actually did it. Like it's like winning lottery, except he had to actually put in all the work, and it's quite amazing. And he's a normal guy. He's a podcaster who just, in my 20s, I worked my way to the Jets. Jets signed me.
Yeah, no big deal.
I was in the AFL. I had like 11 picks in 1 year. That's what I did in my 20s. Like, wow. And I love people. Like, that's why the Ross Dwellys, the Nick Mullins, it's like, you're probably just going to be a normal dude from 30 on, but you just had this little time in your life where you're in the same locker room here and you're looking around like I'm looking around like, damn, this is wild. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of, I don't know what that interplay is, but it's a lot of fun.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Damian says, sub Grant, trade Kittle and Jimmy in a package to Carolina for 2 first and the second round. Kittle has a say in the team and his choice is obvious. Dude, I know I'm with you, man. I was trying to say that, but they extended Kittle's contract. I guess that was their response to my idea. Let's have him here longer. He's the face of the team. They market the hell out of him.
He is. And they were up against the wall because they flubbed the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. They had to extend some of these contracts that otherwise maybe they don't.
I love that Deebo wants to be the highest paid. My summation that he should be traded is based on Parag and John, not Deebo. Yeah. Should. He could be traded. Again, this is going to come down to Kyle probably saying, look, I need my offense. But that's what my big question here is. I could see Kyle saying, I need a great left tackle. Okay. I can't scheme up anything to help a left tackle. He either can do it or he can't. That's the best. Pay him. An offensive weapon, though? Do you really think you need him, Kyle? Or do you think your scheme is the real star? Because I think deep down he thinks his scheme's a real star, and that's where things can get weird.
Yeah. He thinks he can squeeze production out of Travis Benjamin. He thinks his scheme works.
Yeah. All right. Final topic on Deebo, then we'll move on. This is a meta topic. No, actually, we have 2 more topics. Ha! Okay. second to last topic on Deebo, then we'll move on. Should the Niners change the way they do business with contract extensions? We've talked about this a little bit, but basically their practice of waiting until the deadline to agree, waiting until right before training camp. Is that the best way to do business in 2022?
I mean, in years past, I guess I understood it, right? It seems like the 49ers wanted to say, well, we really want those guys that are team first, that are all about the 49ers. We want those guys that show up to camp because they have a year remaining on their contracts. And so they're going to honor that in good faith. And then we'll continue to negotiate with them in good faith. But the question I have to ask now that you're having to one up all of these deals, is it time to rethink that strategy? Is there really any purpose, any advantage in waiting until July to get these deals done? I have to ask, why? Like, what is your reasoning here? Why do the deals in camp? It pays to be the first one now, because each one of these wide receivers is attempting to outdo the last. And there are still some wide receivers remaining to get paid. So to me, it seems like you want to cut the line. At this point in time, Grant, I'm not seeing the upside to waiting.
It seems like the 49ers have a hard and fast rule. This is how we do business.
Right.
It's how we do business, and it works most of the time. But it seems like it's dependent on the market that offseason. Like right now, it probably isn't costing them with Bosa because there aren't a ton of edge rushers resetting the market weekly. But this wide receiver market is strange. As you put it, it's kind of like crypto. To just stick your head in the sand and pretend like it's not happening is not the best way to go about things. It's just costing you money. It's like being like, hey, it's a bubble. It's going to come back. It's not coming back down. It's not. It's not. And you're making things more expensive on yourself. And so, this process with Kyle Juszczyk, fine. No one's going to reset the fullback market. But the wide receiver market, this is crazy. You probably should just cut your losses and get in as quickly as you can and figure, hey, it's going to go up from here. We can always flip this. It's like the housing market, I think, at this point.
It is.
Yeah.
And it seems as if the 49ers outsmart themselves in this regard. Oh, no, we have the appropriate value assigned to this. We know that the cap is going to skyrocket.
Says it's going to go for 1.2. Why would we give up $2 million? Because there's the actual market.
There is. It goes back to this idea of inflexibility. They put a price tag on this. They believed that they were going to get it done at a specific point in time. And then the market went haywire and they were like, no, we'll just stick with our plan. Seems reasonable.
Should we just wait it out? All the craziness that's going on right now? Nah, it'll leave out. Market evens out.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, it's a bubble. It'll come back down. Yeah, NFL contracts come back down. It's as if they said to themselves, hey, we know the cap is going up. We are the smartest team in the league, and we are going to take advantage of that. Other teams won't. And other teams were like, yeah, we know the cap is going up as well. We're going to backload these deals. We're going to get these deals done now for our wide receivers and make you pay more.
They also know, they know a lot. They know that they can trade Deebo Samuel if push comes to shove and the fan base will eat it up. They know that because it happened with DeForest Buckner. Like, think about the Buckner thing 2 years ago. If we were doing the show 2 months before that Buckner trade happened and I was like early February, I was like, hey, I got a crazy idea. I think the Niners should trade Buckner like I did this year with Kittle. You saw what the reaction was when I said trade Kittle. People would have said, Grant, first of all, you're wrong. Second of all, screw you. Third of all, you just want attention. You will literally say anything for attention. 2 months later, they do it, and you got Niner fans that day being like, this is genius. This is galaxy brain stuff. Like, look at all the things this allows them to do. Like, Niner fans in general. I'm not trying to crap on Niner fans. Fans in general are programmed to support the team they freaking like. I mean, whatever the team does, that was right. And that's why, again, that's why I say, like, be careful of journalists that prey on that because they know you want to hear that. They know, and whether they believe it or not, there's so much money and following to be gained just to tell you what you want to hear in freaking April. Anyway, I don't even know how I got on that tangent. What are we talking about? Football?
We talking about football? We talking about Deebo? Still talking about Deebo.
Okay. So, they should probably change the way they do business or at least react. We've been talking about that a lot.
I just don't see a reason for it, right? I see plenty of reasons to change the strategy. I don't understand why you would want to be obtuse on this and just say, nope, we get deals done in July. What does that benefit you in this particular contract negotiation? I would argue it doesn't. Therefore, you should change the strategy, get this deal done as soon as possible, find that middle ground with Deebo, because A.J. Brown's going to get paid. And guess what? There goes the market again.
That's right. That's right. It's really serious. This is a dire situation. And then who after that? DK.
Probably. Right. After DK he gets traded.
So it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. Just like there's always another quarterback who's going to get traded before Jimmy Garoppolo, there's always another wide receiver who's going to get $30 million a year.
And if the Seahawks pivot and say, hey, you know what? We're a run-first team, and we got DK Metcalf. Maybe we should trade him. And then they give him to some wide receiver needy team. They get the bag, right? They get the huge trade package that could have been for Deebo. And then you go to trade Deebo because eventually you realize, oh, we waited too long, and now there isn't a trade partner out there.
Or the Seahawks could do the calculations we just put together. Oh, we're not paying anything for quarterbacks anymore. Let's just screw the market up. Let's pay DK way too much. A short-term deal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. While Drew Lock is on his rookie, pay him way too much money. Screw over the rest of the league. They could do that. Have fun. He's making $35 million a year now. We can afford it. Really doesn't. No problem. So I'm just saying things could get crazy. Barry Baller, Cohn phone tomorrow. I got some fire cooking. Sup, Rob? Not tomorrow. I'm doing a show with Mariah tomorrow on her channel, and then I'm going to be looking at houses with my wife because it's that time. But I'm either going to do one like late this afternoon or Sunday. So I'll let you know. Probably Sunday.
Nice.
Whew. Okay, moving on. Last Deebo topic. All right, this is a meta topic. So the reason we're talking about Deebo Samuel right now isn't that he's in the middle of a contract negotiation. We've known that for months. It's because his Twitter had some strange activity. Basically, he pulled a Kyler Murray. He took down his Twitter picture, his profile picture on Instagram, which was him.
The gram. Get it straight. The gram, baby.
I mean, look, I've been covering the NFL since 2011. It's only this year when I realized that actually you have to look at these players. I'm not even on Instagram, but you have to look at their Instagram because news is, at least the way I look at it, news is happening, and it's like little stuff. He takes down his Niner pictures, and then that's a story, and he knows it. And everyone's like, well, everyone's making too much of this. His picture's still up. The next morning, his picture's down. So it's like, are you trolling us? Are you listening to this conversation? What are you doing? To me, Deebo scrubbing his social media of 49ers related things is juvenile. It's silly, but it is a story in 2022. In fact, this is where news is happening in the offseason, and it's strange. And I feel like it makes me feel like a boomer, but I really do think this is a story.
It absolutely is. I mean, my answer to this is nuanced, as usually my answers tend to be, that yes and no, it's an actual story. I think, yes, absolutely, it is a story. The question becomes, how big of a story is it? Right. So, yes, it's absolutely right.
We don't know what it means.
No, you have to interpret it. I mean, when arguably the most popular player and the most effective offensive weapon has grown so frustrated with the negotiations he's having with the team,
or so we think,
that he takes these drastic measures, then yes, that is a story.
If this started a month ago when he posted on Instagram saying, I'm tired of showing what I can do for you. Show me what you can do for me. Right. I did a whole live about that, and he immediately reacted and says, it's not all about football. Okay, well, now we're all thinking it's probably about football. And he hasn't corrected anyone in a long time. And I think he should unblock me. But that's neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to say real quick. What's crazy to me is what people say. No, I didn't finish it all. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to me, at a bare freaking minimum, I believe this shows definitively where he stands in the negotiation process. I don't think there's any room for interpretation on that. I believe this is a clear-cut message. These elite level athletes have begun to understand the power that social media has and the leverage that it creates for them. So for him, this is just pulling another lever in the negotiation process. And that's why, yes, it's a big deal. And at the same time, it's not a big deal. He's just flexing his muscle here. He has very limited ways in which he can impact this deal getting done and him maximizing his earning potential. This is one of those ways he's using that leverage that's available to him.
He's most likely pulling a Kyler Murray. Again, we don't know.
Yeah.
He's most likely Kyler Murray did this 2 months ago.
Right.
And I think we could we could guess that agents have looked at that and be like, oh, that's an interesting move. It's sort of not really doing it. You're not requesting a trade.
No,
it's nothing really that unprofessional. It's very silly. But what it does is it sends a message and it makes your client the center of the conversation for a week. Like, we went from talking about Jimmy every day to now talking about Deebo 2 days in a row. And is he worth the money? Should the Niners pony up? Are they being cheap? Like, it's all about him. That's a good thing. Like, Deebo's agent, or if this is what they wanted to do, they won. This was smart. So that's the one thing I want to say. The other thing I want to say is when people are like, hey, this is nothing. This is a non-story. This means nothing, and Deebo's probably going to sign. How do you know? That is a leap of faith. Yeah. What I think is so interesting about this story is it's cryptic.
It is.
We don't know what it means. And I'm not saying this means that he's going to get traded. It means that we need to have a serious discussion.
We do. And the last part of what you said there, I think, is true when fans are assuming, well, it's no big deal and Deebo's still going to sign. Yeah, I still believe Deebo's going to sign. I still believe that last part. But to say this is no big deal, that to me is just.
Did you talk to his agent? Did you talk to Deebo?
No, I mean, the level of frustration could be minor, and he's just using this as leverage. The level of frustration could have risen to the point where he is fed up with this. To me, the brilliance of this move by professional athletes now is that they are essentially crowdsourcing some leverage in this negotiation, right? He puts this out. Deebo knows he is one of, if not the most popular players on the 49ers after the season that he just had last year. I mean, people watched him, in tears on the sideline, and you saw the reaction on Twitter. Like, that tore 49ers fans' hearts out of their chest. And so he has now taken the majority of 49er faithful onto his side. Sure, there is the minority that feel, as the earlier commenter do, that, well, forget him, right? Get him off the team, trade him now. But I do think that's a minority. I think most 49er fans are now screaming from the top of their lungs,
hashtag
pay Deebo.
Yep. Hashtag pay Deebo. So
he crowdsourced it.
It's a smart move if that's what he's doing. But again, we don't know what this is about. And it's an interesting new little, maybe a strategy that players and agents are doing. But to me, last thing I want to say, Kyler Murray did this in Arizona. It was national news. Okay. National news. The local beat writers in Arizona wrote about it. It was a story on NFL.com. I read it yesterday. This happened and I'm waiting. I'm like, do I write about this? No one writes about this. And I'm thinking, I waited because we didn't know. Like, at first it was like, well, he took down some pictures, but he still has his profile picture up. Then I was like, okay, keep the profile picture down. He's done exactly what Kyler Murray did. If it's a story there, it's a story here. So I write it late yesterday afternoon. It immediately is trending on Twitter. Twitter was waiting for it. They wanted to promote it, but there's no story about it really anywhere else locally and on the NFL Network. So this morning, it's talked about on Good Morning Football with Peter Schrager. And Peter Schrager goes on like a 3 or 4 minute thing, which is just, the 49ers perspective. Like, what is Deebo's problem? The Niners always, work this out before training camp. Why is he being so impatient? Like, it's like, okay, like, so, and you got to remember, NFL Network is owned by the owners. That is their media organization. And the Niners feed all of their scoops to the NFL Network. So I think what we're seeing here is the Niners are obsessed with controlling the narrative in the media. Whereas I think the Cardinals could probably care less. The Bidwells are thinking about, working it out with Kyler Murray. Jed is obsessed with controlling the narrative in the media. We're not messing up. This is what we wanted to do. This was going on. And so instead of letting someone write about it on NFL, he's had to go to Peter Schrager and be like, okay, I'm not saying he did, but I'm guessing someone had to talk to Peter Schrager and be like, hey, man, can you just explain on Good Morning American Football what we're doing here? I'm not accusing anyone. It's just I'm guessing. This is a guess. That I'm not saying Jed did personally, but this is how they work.
The vast majority of information that's intentionally leaked from the San Francisco 49ers has gone through a source like Peter Schrager, oftentimes Peter Schrager himself. So it would lead me to believe that he's in
their freaking state of the franchise things, or he has been multiple times.
Right. He's definitely clearly connected to John Lynch. I mean, they are buddy. And so you would expect that he's coming at this from the team perspective because he heard directly from the team and got their perspective.
Yeah. So that's the last thing I want to say about it. The Niners are trying really hard to say this is no big deal. And I feel like, I don't know why a lot of media people are taking their cues, but the Niners want you to think it's no big deal. That's why they had That's why their media organization, the NFL Network, is probably talking about it the way they are. Everyone's following suit.
Yeah.
I'm not moved by the 49ers telling me nothing to see here, turn around, nothing going on. Okay, I don't know.
Right.
All I know is that Deebo Samuel's acting like he's freaking pissed. That's what he's projecting. Everyone knows it, and he's not telling anyone. He's not correcting anyone.
The equivalent to this almost feels like if the team came out and said, we're not paying a wide receiver above 21 million. That's just how we do business, right? It would be some type of negotiation tactic that is, again, close to the nuclear option. Like it's close to, hey, this is all the leverage I have, so I'm pulling this lever. And Deebo is saying, I am fed up with the way in which this is trending, so I'm going to try and change the narrative. And again, I think he was brilliant in realizing, unlike Kyler Murray, where I think the fan base is a little more split as to whether Kyler Murray is the truth or not because of the end results. I think with Deebo, the fan base is majority behind him. And therefore, this was an intelligent move by him to where there is now the 49ers' feet are held to the fire by their own fan base calling for Deebo to get paid.
Yeah, and again, like the Niners can say, like, "Hey, we want another year," or Deebo's a team guy. He'll work it out. He'll meet us halfway. He wants to be with Kyle. I don't know about that. It seems like what he's projecting here is he wants to pay what he's worth. And I think what we're seeing is if the Niners don't want to pay $30 million a year for Deebo, there's any number of teams that are willing to because that's the going rate now. And NFL teams have adjusted. I don't know if the Niners have.
Somebody will pay him that.
Anoop says, why are the Niners taking pieces away from Trey Lance, Deebo, and Bosa enabled 2019 and 2021? 49ers think and act like losers under the Yorks. I mean, we don't know what they're thinking. We do not know.
And this is where I would say to the fan base that, like, as much as I say, yes, it's a big deal that Deebo is taking this option, is using this leverage, I still do believe they get a deal done. So you have to be a little patient before you label the 49ers complete failures in this negotiation, because I think they probably come to the table and get a deal done with Deebo. Probably get one done with Bosa, probably trade Jimmy Garoppolo. You have to wait for these things to actually conclude before you make those conclusions.
I mean, I don't think they want to trade Deebo. That's why Jed York already retweeted a meme of someone, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't want to do it, but they're looking for a solution that Parag can sign off on. We just gave them a solution. We told them. So now they were searching. We found it. Give us 20% and we'll move on.
Easy.
Neil says, Grant, you tried to warn Deebo and he blocked you. I'm saying, man, dude, I was on your side, Deebo. It was too real. You blocked me. I don't even need an apology. I'm cool.
It's generous of you.
Wesley says, do you think it's possible that 49ers players and coaches are just trolling the media? They seem to have it out for the media a bit. It's possible. I kind of feel like Kyle was trolling the media last year. Like he was like, I have a Mac Jones or Mac Jones. And I'm not taking Mac Jones. He's not going to take Mac Jones. I don't know. I think he had a lot of fun with that last year. Maybe. I like trolling. Who am I to say that, Deebo?
I absolutely believe Kyle likes to troll the media.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know what I think I guess we'll find out. Swan Song says keeping up with the 49ers shins greenlit for 2022. I wish, but
drama.
Brick by Brick show is actually very boring. Okay, that's 58 minutes of Deebo. We have two more topics that aren't Deebo. We have 90 seconds each. Let's go. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. All right. This kills me. The 49ers still need a safety. Tyrann Mathieu is still available. He's been the guy I've pointed to all offseason as the perfect fit because although he's not what he used to be, he is still a playmaker. He had 3 picks last year. He had 3 fumble recoveries last year. He is what the Niners don't have. He's still available. They have never been linked to him. They have shown zero freaking interest. And why? What am I missing here? How is he not better than George Odom and Talanoa? Please explain why they're not even kicking. They kick the tires on everyone, not Tyrann Mathieu.
Usually I have measured answers. I'm a fan of nuance. I'm a fan of taking emotion out of it, Grant. But in this one, I have to give you my emotionally damaged answers with the acknowledgement that I'm in a weird place because this offseason's made me a little cray-cray, if you will, right? It just hasn't gone as I expected it to go. And I'm losing it here, Grant. But my first one is because they're cheap, Grant. Jed's a damn tightwad, and he's trying to line his pockets with money. And, they just won't pony up. And then I have to look at the evidence, and I'm like, all right, the 49ers aren't cheap because I can disprove that theory. Look at the number of max contracts that they're giving out per position. They're constantly spending up to the cap. And then I've got to yell, no, it's because of Jimmy. Grant, it's all Jimmy's fault. Jimmy's on the roster. This one's harder to disprove. Like, this is an emotional one, but there's a little bit of truth to this. Can the 49ers move around some additional contracts and free up some money? Yes. And they still have a draft class to sign, and they're going to need to move that money in order to sign that draft class. Can they sign a couple of fringe players? Yes, they absolutely can. Can they afford a big ticket guy like Tyrann Mathieu without getting Jimmy off the books? I just don't know. I don't know that the math plays out on that one.
I got a theory. Signing Tyrann Mathieu, 30-year-old DB, that's a big win now move. A big win now move. 30-year-old DB, that's not for next year. That's for right now. I think the Niners are being careful not to give the impression that they're making any win now moves. I mean, they got younger at like 5 positions. The one move they made this offseason was signing a 25-year-old corner and special teams. I think they're trying not to put that pressure on Trey Lance.
Right.
Trey's going to start this year, but we are not a championship team. You know, it's like last year was all about your championship roster. Got to start Jimmy. Hey, man, we almost missed the playoffs last year. We're going young at a lot of spots. Like, don't put that kind of pressure on Trey. I think they're really being careful not to make – I mean, we're saying go all in. They're like, no, we are not all in. Maybe next year, but we don't want to do that. I think that's how they're looking at it. For right or wrong, I think that's how they're looking at it.
Hold back a little bit, right? Yeah. I think you're onto something, because look at the backup quarterback position. Take Jimmy Garoppolo out of it. Let's acknowledge that they are going to do what they need to do to get Jimmy off of this roster. I think there's like a 0.1% that he's actually the backup quarterback for this year. They signed Nate Sudfeld to guaranteed money because of the idea that, dude, if Trey struggles, can you honestly picture a fan in the stands being like, Sudfeld? Right?
Exactly.
So
takes the pressure off of him.
Takes the pressure off of Trey. He can screw up a little bit. Guess what? He's a second-year player. He's probably going to. We're going to need to have some patience there. So I think there's something to this, Grant.
A lot of vets left.
Yes.
A lot of vets gone. A lot of guys. Those guys came up with Jimmy. Played with Jimmy for 5 years. Laken Tomlinson, DJ Jones, gone. Jaquaski Tart, K1, gone. Also, a lot of coaches on offense. Quarterback coach, wide receiver coach, tight end coach. Guys who've been here for 5, it is a whole new beginning.
Yeah,
on offense for the 49ers.
I got to say, if I take my fan self out of it and look at it from a business perspective, I got to admit, as frustrating as it is as a fan, it's a pretty reasonable approach. Like, it's pretty reasonable to hedge a little bit.
But here's what kills me, all right? So they're looking like, look, we don't want to put that pressure on Trey. We don't know what we're going to be. We could miss the playoffs. Dude, forget all that. Jimmy sucks. I'm sorry. You're a Jimmy. Jimmy sucks. And you took him to the NFC Championship twice. He didn't take you. You took him. And you did it with Deebo. And Deebo's 26. He's in his freaking prime. Go for it. Go for it right now. Sign Tyrann Mathieu. Like, what do you do? It's not about your quarterback. You have the most valuable non-quarterback in the league. You're going to pay him that way. Don't punt. You're not tanking, but I'd call it punting. You're punting this season. Don't do that.
And it's a bipolar type of a way to interact. Last year, you're like, we're pushing all our chips into the middle of the table. This year, it's like, let's slow down a little bit. Let's be a little more conservative. And then next year, we're pushing all of our chips into the. To me, it's like hot and cold. It's, hey, you decided last year you were taking a big swing. Keep taking big swings. Like, that's the advantage of having this rookie on that deal, is to take some big swings. So what if you miss? That's why you have him on that deal.
I've never heard of a team making it to a conference championship game and not going all in the next year.
Right?
Like,
the window is open and they're like,
you're on deck. No, you're the team that people are picking to win the Super Bowl next year. They made it this close. They need like 1 or 2 things. The Niners are like, what? No. We're a little rebuild. Mini rebuild. But if you give us 2 or 3 years, we'll be good. Like, we were that was a fluke. We're not gonna build that. We probably actually 9 times out of 10 missed the playoffs last year.
Yeah, so do you know how lucky we got last year?
You understand how freaking lucky we got last year? That's basically been what their attitude this year. Niner fans are like, really was really hoping you wouldn't say that, but you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Last topic, and then we're gonna end the show. I can't even get the words out of my mouth with this one. This is funny. Okay. Do the 49ers, straight face, serious face, do the 49ers still need a deep threat after signing Marcus Johnson, who runs a 4? Did you know that he runs a 4.39? He runs a 4.39.
It's cray-cray.
Wow.
To me, this is absolutely the 49ers having tried to put a Band-Aid over their perceived holes. And I feel like it's a trend that they have done throughout this offseason. 49ers fans are clamoring for the fact that interior O-line in general is a travesty. Like, what are we going to do at this position? The 49ers are like, slow your roll. At left guard, we're going to plug in Aaron Banks. We drafted him in the second round last year. Alex Mack is going to be back. McGlinchey will be fine at right tackle. Brunskill started the whole last year at right guard.
Justin Spruance coming back.
Right?
Remember him? Everyone's favorite. He's back.
Back again, baby.
Jalen Moore. Don't forget Jalen Moore. So
yeah, we got plans. And then at safety, they were like, oh, yeah, you know, Jaquiski Tarr, we're not going to bring him back, but remember Talanoa Hufanga. Oh, and Tavarius Moore, super athletic.
Have you heard of George Odom?
Yeah, George Odom.
Have you heard of George Odom? Because you probably haven't. But
he's an all-pro. I mean, special teams all-pro.
All-pro special teams. But the way he tackles.
In the box, Grant. In the box.
His tackling, he is going to be an all-pro safety for us. We saw a diamond in the rough. He's like the Jerick McKinnon of defense. You know how they didn't see, we saw George Odom, but boom.
We saw it. This just feels like another one. I respect the strategy, Grant. As much as I'm going to make fun of these Band-Aids that they have applied, I believe what you're seeing here is the 49ers attempting to gain flexibility within the draft. They are saying to themselves, Kyle Shanahan acknowledged as much at the owners' meeting. He said, hey, I wish that you could flip the script. I wish that we could draft first and go to free agency second, because then I could draft best player available across the board and fill the holes in free agency. But because we go free agency first, I'm left with some holes on my roster, and then I do have to take that into account when deciding on who to draft. I have to look at, is this player in the same tier, but this player addresses a need and this one doesn't, even though he's slightly higher within that tier. This, to me, allows them a little bit of flexibility. I still would contend that they have holes that they need to fill. I still would contend that is offensive line, safety. I still believe speed wide receiver is one of those, and edge rusher. But again, they have addressed them such that if they miss in the draft, they're not completely screwed.
Yes, I guess that's the right way to put it. It's not like the 49ers. I mean, the way I look at Marcus Johnson is, do we even know he's going to make the team? Should it really change their...
Yeah, the hope is he doesn't.
Right? Like, it's not like the Niners are like, well, we were looking at taking a wide receiver in round 3, but now we have Marcus Johnson, so we're going to wait. We're not going to take a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Journeyman wide receiver? Yes, please.
I mean, he's run a whole lot of clear out routes in his career, but he has 51 catches. So I think his main job on a team is to run and not get the ball. And I think it shouldn't be one of your top 4 wide receivers.
No.
I don't know. Plus, he gets hurt all the time, and it's like broken foot, and he's supposed to be fast. So, yeah, I think probably if all goes according to plan, this will be the last time we ever talk about Marcus Johnson.
Yes.
Although you already know there's going to be like a week in training camp where this guy is just everywhere. It's like, oh, like Trent Sherfield last year. He's like Trent Sherfield.
Yeah. Breakout candidate of the year, Grant.
And then he gets 4. What did Trent Sherfield get? 4 catches?
Something around that.
All right.
Yeah, he lit the world on fire.
He did in training camp.
You know what? Start to the season.
The best detail about the Trent Sherfield story, he did have a good camp, but he wore his pads. He wore his jersey every day. He was all business. It was like, I'm so sorry. He's actually
working, man.
He did do a good job in training camp.
I do respect the hell out of him. I want to say that.
I do too. And I hope he gets an opportunity to be a wide receiver. Was it Miami now?
Yeah, I believe so.
Damian says there is no more excuse for Colin John if the season doesn't go as planned. It's their fault for not giving Trey enough playing time. Mainly John's fault for trying to make his resume look good. Shaking my head. Sup, Rob?
What's up, Damian?
I love when someone ends a thing like, "What's up, Rob?"
What's up?
Oh yeah, what's up? I forget what he said besides that. I don't remember him addressing you like that. It's great. Yeah,
that was the most important part of it for sure.
I do think that the Niners, Kyle and John, are pretty cognizant that they have a ton of, mostly Kyle. Kyle has a ton of job security. From his perspective.
And John's got like $100 million TV deal waiting for him if he doesn't have job security.
Good point. But from Kyle's perspective, like Jed probably wants him for life. And if Jed ever were to, fire him, I think Kyle's like, cool. There'll be, 10 teams that want me. So I don't care. I can do everything exactly how I want. The one thing that could jeopardize that is if Trey Lance is a freaking bust.
Yep.
Now everyone looks at Kyle differently. Like, dude, you ran off Jimmy. Your ego got the better of you, and you have no idea what you're talking about with quarterbacks. Like, you're an offensive guy who's got a good scheme, but you have no freaking clue when it comes to quarterbacks. Now your stock just went down big time, right? So he's got to be careful.
It's a huge miss. It really is one of the only things that could tank what is going on in San Francisco. Because I think you're right. Both Kyle and John either have enough job security to where they don't care, or have enough opportunities elsewhere if they do lose their job that, again, they don't care. They've got options. That's what happens when you're successful and you have various choices you can make within your career. So, yeah, I think that they're comfortable there. But if the Trey experiment goes poorly, you gave up so much to get him. You have so few assets right now. It would take a long time to find that next quarter. It's taken John and Kyle how long to find their first quarterback where they're like, yeah, this is our guy? You going to give him another 6 years?
Pre-nice says, sell Deebo. He only had one good season, get picks. No. What I would rather do, instead of saving the York's money, I want him to spend a lot on Deebo. Front load him. Guarantee it. Come on, man. You're worth like $4.5 billion. Break him off. And still look out for your future interests. Don't commit long term, but break him off. Some proper.
Reward that talent.
Jason says Jimmy got to go. The man's best play was with him. Pay Deebo or we riot. P.S. Can't wait for that merch. Thank you, Jason. It's coming soon. That was a really funny comment. I wish I could read it, but I'm gonna not.
The pay Deebo or we riot is that crowdsourcing I'm talking about. I mean, these are the voices that John Lynch has now got to hear constantly until he gets a deal done.
Look, don't riot, okay? It's just sports. But what I want to say, keep that metaphorical energy if this happens, because I every time it happens, fans switch. They did it. It was smart. It's more than that. They did it. Wow, it's shocking. Well, they must have had a plan. The plan was probably right. The plan was actually genius. This is the smartest thing they've ever done. That's how it goes. That is the 5 steps of being a fan. And then you got like 8 different people on Twitter with blue check marks being like, this was genius. This was genius. This was genius. Yeah. Here's a spreadsheet. Here's some stats. And you're like, oh yeah, it's great. Keep that energy, please. Because it would be the worst move ever. Seriously. Yeah. Don't let it happen.
You just don't want them to riot because you're worried about the Kia Stinger getting abused out. I mean, you can't have people burning cars when you got yourself a good whip.
Yeah, I just got tints done just now. Logical Truth says absolutely would be criminally negligent to back up the Brinks truck for only one good season. Players who get broke off have numerous productive years, except for Jimmy. They made Jimmy Garoppolo the highest paid player in the league with a no trade clause after 7 career starts. So they don't have a leg to stand on here. Deebo has definitely shown more. Deebo has shown that he's the best player, the best non-quarterback in the league. I swear. I think he is. And only question is longevity. Cool. Yep. Pay him now. Pay him now.
Front load.
I'm so smart. We figured it out. We're so smart.
This is it.
What are they paying you for? We do it for free.
I'll take Parag's cut.
Yeah, me too. Deebo gets paid. Ayuk stats up. Now what? Then Ayuk's going to cost a lot too.
Yeah.
But again, if you have Trey Lance making $8 million a year, you can start doing crazy things.
Right.
Crazy things. Yeah.
And the reality is, just because you pay Deebo now doesn't mean you can't trade him in future years if that scenario plays out, right? I mean, if Ayuk emerges and he's a little bit more affordable, great. Trade Deebo at that point. Someone's going to be willing to pay him $30 million a year.
Again, like if you lock up Deebo this year and give him a contract, whatever it looks like there's sticker shock, right? Oh my God, $29 million a year for Deebo?
Right.
Next year that looks cheap.
Right.
Next year, people are trying to trade for that. It's like, man, Deebo for 29 on the market, he'd be like 37 now. Man. Let me get a Deebo for 29. Let me get a Deebo, please. Yeah. All right. Well, we talked about Deebo for an hour and 15. Agent, you are winning. I don't know who you are. Deebo, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
You watched the show. Don't try like you didn't watch the show. You were all over this an hour after that one time, but I respect it because the man's got good taste. He's smart.
He does.
The man's got good taste. Rob, what's your schedule the rest of the day?
I'm going to be on with Jack Hammer on my program probably about 3:30ish.
Nice. I'm going to be back on in 45 minutes with Sibla. So
nice.
I'll see you guys soon if you want more, because I know you do. And then Rob's got you after that for the late show, which is quite early on a Friday afternoon.
Boom.
Boom. See you guys.